Yeah, it's going really good. We started in January and we did a fairly long pre-production phase where we did all of the rooms in the game as wireframe art, got the whole game wired together and all the puzzles wired together, so we could run through the game and see how it felt and see how the size of the world and how the puzzles all worked. And so that finished at the 1st of July. So pre-production was done and then we started into production. So now we're doing final art for the game. And it's going great so far. We spent a lot of time planning and budgeting and scheduling the project out, and the July date that we'd picked, there was a little bit of room for slop in that, but it could be a couple of months late. It's not going to be a year late. It's not going to be that late. But I think all games kind of slip a little bit by a few months. A lot of times you don't know about the slippage because it all kind of happens, in secret and stuff. But with Kickstarters, you're a lot more aware of all of those initial plans that never really happen the way that they're supposed to. I did do the Thimbleweed Park was fairly recent. It was probably only about a year ago that Gary and I had started talking about doing a 2D point-and-click adventure, and started to work on the story and figure out all of that before we did the Kickstarter. It was always supposed to be pixel art because Gary Winnick and I are doing it, and we did Maniac Mansion, and so we really wanted the art style to feel a lot like Maniac Mansion. So it was always supposed to be an old school pixel art. And the art's moved a little bit. It's probably moved in between Maniac Mansion and Monkey Island in terms of art style at this point. But it's going to definitely stay 8-bit pixels. Well, it started out very Maniac Mansion because we didn't know how much money we were going to raise. And so we needed to make sure that for the money that we asked for on Kickstarter, that we could do all of the art. And so the art kind of stayed a much simpler, more Maniac Mansion style, which we knew we could get done. When we raised more money than we needed, we decided, well, let's use that money and let's kind of bring the art a little bit closer to Monkey Island. And also Mark Ferrari came on, and he had done the art for the original Monkey Island. He also did Loom. And so, having him on kind of pushed the art a little more in that direction as well. But it's still, staying very much in that classic Lucasfilm adventure. Yeah, we're going to do some fun stuff. I mean, it's a digitally downloaded game. But we are planning a boxed version of it, and we're going to do some fun stuff. I don't know that there'll be an actual code wheel, but we are planning some really cool stuff for the box on the game. And there are a lot of little in-jokes in the game that really do kind of harken back to those days. Crowdfunding, I think, is tricky. It's really tricky because to launch a successful Kickstarter, it involves you having to hype what you're doing a whole lot, and I think you can get into this cycle where you end up making promises you can't keep because you're hyping the game, and especially if you're very close to making your numbers but not really, there's this real incentive to just promise things just to get that money across. And oftentimes it's easy to get in a situation where you're promising stuff you just can't do. And we were really, really careful about that with this Kickstarter. We tried not to overhype it. We tried to say, look, this is what we're building, and we're not going to promise a whole bunch of stuff. This is it. And I think we really stuck to that. We knew what the stretch goals were going to be at the beginning, and they were all very realistic, and we knew we could get it done for the money. So hopefully it works out well. Yeah, I think it gets back to that initial issue. It's like don't promise things that you can't deliver on. And if you schedule stuff well and you budget stuff well, hopefully that all works out. So I don't know, because I haven't really been a part of any Kickstarter that's had to, raise a bunch more money to do it. So I don't really know why they had to do that. So I don't want to kind of criticize things when I don't really know. But, we spent a bunch of time scheduling and budgeting, and, we both have a lot of experience at doing that kind of stuff. So hopefully things will work out well. There certainly are puzzles I will never do in an adventure game again.
Which would be?
Things like the monkey wrench in Monkey Island. I think puzzles that are, word plays off of things that are very specific to a language. I think those are very hard to translate, and while they might be funny in English, or maybe something's funny in German, it's just not funny in French because the wordplay is not there. So I think that was a lesson learned from the monkey wrench puzzle on Monkey Island, is to just stay away from those those kind of puzzles. I've wanted to be on console for the game. It's definitely a PC point and click adventure, but a lot of people play on consoles, and it would really be nice for people who are on consoles to be able to play the game. And I like the Xbox. I'm an Xbox person, and I play it, and so it was definitely wanted to be on console. So we just started talking to the different console manufacturers, and really hit it off with the Xbox people, and really they really liked the game, and I think they really believed in what we were doing and the vision we had for it. So it just seemed like a good fit. I have absolutely no idea how I'm going to do it, none whatsoever. It is a point-and-click adventure, and I want to keep that feel, right? I don't want to do some whole new interface for the console. I don't want to do weird radial menus or anything. So it's just going to take a lot of experimenting to figure out something that works, for the consoles. But what's really important is that it feels like a classic point-and-click adventure game. Yeah, I never want to say I'm not going to do something, because when you start doing it, you kind of realize, oh, there is a way I can do that works. But, I don't want to turn it into a game where you're just driving the character around with a controller, because I think that does wreck what makes a point-and-click adventure fun, and that is, using the cursor to kind of scan the room and understand what's going on. And I do like, indirect control. I like clicking somewhere. But it's figuring out how to get that to work with a controller. A lot of people don't realize, Maniac Mansion was really the first point-and-click adventure game. You played that with a controller. There was no mouse on the Commodore 64. You plugged an Atari joystick in and you drove the cursor around. And, that's the way people play that stuff. Yeah, so we'll start playing around with it, and nice thing is you can connect an Xbox controller to a Windows machine or a Mac, so it's going to be very easy for us to start playing with stuff without actually having to have a console to do it on. So we can kind of see what works and what feels right on that. With the controller, it's probably something that we're going to talk a lot about, on the dev blog, at the backers and stuff, is really go through our experience of, okay, how are we going to do a controller, and talk about, some of the experiments we're doing, and, get feedback from people and stuff. So, I think people will kind of see our whole process of how we're going to, deal with the controller. But there were a couple of comments on the dev blog, after the announcement, that people were worried that we were going to, because of this, we were going to change the PC version of the game. And that's just not true at all. The PC version is absolutely going to stay, a very, very true point-and-click game. If any changes happen, it will, just be for the console version of the game. Probably not. I'll just kind of figure it out myself. Broken Age, in my mind, it's not like the classic point-and-click adventure, right? It didn't have the verbs, it didn't have the same inventory setup. So I think they're dealing with a slightly different set of problems, than Thimbleweed Park is. Because, I do want it to feel like the Monkey Island stuff and the Maniac Mansion stuff, and that kind of presents a special set of issues that I think we need to deal with.